I was just sent this post, 10 lessons learned from building this newsletter. This newsletter is Lenny's newsletter. It just reached 500,000 subscribers, which makes it among the top 5 largest newsletters on Substack and one of the largest newsletters broadly. And this guy has a chart of his growth from when he started the newsletter on June 2nd, 2019. There were plenty, it's crazy. So now it's just one of the most popular newsletters. The guy started it 4 years ago. 4 years ago, there were many newsletters out there. The competition was heavy. It was a terrible time to start a newsletter. People were probably like, oh, you're starting a newsletter? Like, what are you doing? There's so much competition. Like, you're never going to break through. And this guy said, I'm going to be consistent and I'm going to do it anyway. And he talks about how he got his first 100 subscribers, his first 1,000 subscribers, his first 100,000 subscribers. He talks about all of that and the lessons that he learned along the way. He wrote a long post on it, and I took my favorite parts from the post, and I'm going to read those favorite parts to you. Thank you so much for joining me. Lenny Rachitsky, Lenny's newsletter. So here's how he got his first 100 subscribers. First of all, this is what his newsletter is about. It's a weekly advice column about building product, driving growth, and accelerating your career. If you want to check it out, it's lennysnewsletter.com, and it's on Substack. It has now over 510,000 subscribers. Here's how he got his first 100 subscribers. Over 510,000 subs. Here's how he got his first. He made a Medium post about his time working at Airbnb. This helped him grow his Twitter audience, and then he tweeted that he's launching a newsletter. That got him his first 100 subscribers. Now, keep in mind, everything that I'm reading to you is over the course of years. He was consistent, and I'll talk more about that in a bit. His next 1,000 subscribers came when he did a guest post on First Round Review and on Andrew Chen's blog. First Round is a seed stage venture firm, and Andrew Chen is a general partner at Andreessen Horowitz, and he's really well known, very famous. Next 10,000 subscribers. He was just writing useful stuff every week for 9 months and then tweeting summaries of it. And so he was growing from word of mouth by doing this, just writing useful stuff every week for 9 months and tweeting summaries of it. And then the next 100,000 subscribers came from writing useful stuff every week for 2 years, doing the same thing, tweeting summaries about it, and then word of mouth. He did this for his next 200,000 subscribers, and then the last 200, and he talks about this, and I'm going to talk more about this. Substack came out with a recommendations feature. This feature was a game changer for him. He shows his growth chart, and it was an inflection point in his growth where he spikes upward because of Substack's recommendations feature. Substack's recommendation feature is a way for writers to recommend other newsletters. So if you have a newsletter, you recommend other newsletters when a new reader subscribes to your newsletter. And then when you do this, other newsletters recommend you. I'm actually just going to read what Substack wrote. Writers can now select other Substacks to recommend when a new reader subscribes to their own publication. They also have the option to add a personal blurb, a chance to describe why they endorse the publication. For readers, recommended publications appear after they subscribe to a publication. The content is not algorithmic. That's important. And the writer is in control of which publications they recommend. The recommended writer will receive an email with the details of how the endorsement has impacted their subscriber numbers. So this encourages reciprocity. They are encouraged to reciprocate your recommendation and to recommend other writers. And so this guy Lenny, he loves this feature. This feature really blew him up. And that's how he got to 500,000 email subscribers, becoming one of the most subscribed to newsletters in the world. And it's a business newsletter, so it's extremely valuable. I want to read my favorite parts of this newsletter. It had a big effect on me, and I think it's just really fascinating. After saying that he has one of the biggest newsletters, he gets into the lessons that he learned. Number 1, quality plus consistency equals all that matters. Things that don't matter, your design, your title, your strategy, most things. Things that matter, quality, consistency. Growth comes from publishing something valuable that people want to share with their friends and colleagues over and over and over. If your newsletter isn't growing, it's most likely either a quality problem or a consistency problem. Here's some advice for improving both. Number 2, do your job to be done better than anyone else in the world. You can bucket every great newsletter into the job it's doing for people. Help me parent better. So he gives a bunch of examples of good newsletters for each of these niches. So I'm just going to read the niches rather than the recommendations for the newsletters. Help me parent better. Help me cook better. Help me understand what's happening in tech. Help me understand what's happening in the world. Inspire me. Entertain me. There are many more categories, and there's room for many winners within each category. So you don't necessarily need to be the best in the world, but you should strive to be. I want to touch on this. I've met so many millionaires in this week. It's Mainnet week. It's a big crypto week in New York. And I was invited to not just a lot of crypto events, but also like top tech events. Generally like good events. And I've just been meeting millionaire after millionaire after millionaire, and they're just normal people. And I'm reminded the pie is so big. The pie is so big. There's so many people out there who will like your stuff. If you can find, and he talks about this, your 1,000 true fans, you can find your 1,000 true fans, then you can pay yourself enough to make it, and then you can grow. So he talks about his newsletter, and he says, my newsletter's job to be done. So this is his category. My newsletter's job to be done is to help you get better at work, specifically building and growing your product and career. If I can do this job super well for you consistently, you'll keep reading. Start by figuring out what job you're doing for someone by answering these 2 questions. Who exactly is your audience? Think of a specific person. What would they find extremely interesting or useful? What is the concrete job you're doing for them? Is it entertainment, helping them make money, inspiring them, helping them understand the world, something else? Follow your energy. I talk about this a lot. Writing consistently is a grind. Best case scenario, you'll be thinking, writing, and learning about this topic for years. To continue to do this work at a high caliber, you need to be genuinely curious about your topic area. Otherwise, you will create a job for yourself that you will hate. So oh my gosh, I've talked about this time and time again. It's so important. That's what I do with this podcast. I talk about things that I am interested in because that's the only way that I can do a daily show. I have a daily podcast, a daily TikTok, and a weekly newsletter, and they are all about stuff that I care about and find fascinating, and that is the only way that I can keep them going and I can be consistent with them. It's by liking the stuff that I'm talking about, and so many people try to get into what's hot. They try to do what's hot rather than what they care about, and then they burn out and they fail. Do what you care about. That's what I'm doing. That's what this guy did. That's what a lot of super successful people do. To find a topic that is right for you, follow your energy. What topics give you energy to think about, write about, and talk about? What saps you of energy? Spend more time on the former and less on the latter. This one trick will tell you a lot. Make sure it's based on your real life experience. You need to know what you're talking about. People can tell if you don't. Notice how the best newsletters are by people who have deep experience in that space. What's at the center of the Venn diagram of your unique skills and background that together create an interesting topic? Pay attention to what people value. I deliberately made this the 3rd item because many people start here. That's what I just said, which is a trap. But it's still important for there to be people who care about your ideas. What do people often ask you for advice about? What has been the most helpful thing you've shared with friends? Where do you find pull from others? Finally, it's important to find a niche, like building a personal monopoly, but be careful about getting too niche. You have to write, think, learn about one narrow topic for a long time, and if it's too narrow, you'll get bored as hell. If I followed the classic advice of picking a narrow niche, I'd have focused on just product management, but I don't care about product management that much. I'm interested in the wider space of building products, helping them grow, improving your career, and building startups. So I kept my focus areas broad and went where my interests took me. Although this made it harder to explain what my newsletter was about, the topics were close enough to make sense together, and I was able to stay excited about work. This is like, you're in it for the long haul, and so it's okay if you don't niche down right away. You're in it for the long haul. You want to figure out what you care about so you can make it through the long haul. It's do the long cut, not the shortcuts. As a good rule of thumb, start by getting 1,000 people to think about your newsletter is the best news. Start by getting 1,000 people to think your newsletter is the best newsletter in the world. Interestingly, when I hit 1,000 paid subscribers, I was able to make a real living from this newsletter. And then this section, I love this section. He says, cut 30 to 50% of your words. Oh man, this is like so good. Oftentimes, like the first draft, people will just publish their first drafts, be it a video, a newsletter, an article, whatever it is, a podcast. And it's so important to look at what you can trim down. So you just have the best stuff in, and that makes the content overall so much better. So he says, cut 30 to 50% of your words. Before I started this newsletter, I'd never written anything publicly, taking writing courses or studied writing. But after doing a bunch of writing and reading 3 impactful books, he recommends these books: On Writing Well, Nobody Wants to Read Your Shit, and several short sentences about writing. The biggest lesson I've learned is to cut, and cut some more. Cut every word that isn't absolutely necessary. Make your intro 50% shorter. Get into the meat of your post as quickly as possible. As Wes Cow puts it, start your story right before you get eaten by the bear. That's so good. Start your story right before you get eaten by the bear. As an example, with almost every guest post that I edit, if I remove the first paragraph of the first draft, the post immediately gets stronger. Try this with your next piece of writing. Cut the intro and get right into it. And I try to do that with this newsletter. I do that 100% with my TikToks. It's you want to just jump right. Movies do that. Movies, like big blockbuster movies, they start with the action because you want to get people hooked. I thought this was so good. This is a concept that I talk about a lot. The one thing that I want to touch upon is why I have this podcast. And he doesn't say this too much. He's just like, focus on product. And while I agree with that, you don't want to drive consumers to a bad product because they will bounce. They will not stick. You want to focus on product. You want to have the best product you can so people share it. You still want to know how to get people to your great product as fast as possible. That's why I have this podcast. Most people don't have the connections where they can write on the First Round blog or on Andrew Chen's blog. He had those connections to get him the initial distribution. If you don't have that connections, and like I said, many people don't have those connections, here are some quick things that you can do. I made episodes about each of these things. Twitter ads, number 1. I inspired somebody today to start their Twitter ads campaign. Somebody who I met with, this woman who throws crazy events. Her name is Avni. She's great. And I told her, I'm like, I got 7.5 million impressions and 10.5 thousand link clicks for $4 ad spend on Twitter X. I make podcasts about how to do that. I think I'll make one on that tomorrow, because I've learned a lot since I made my last podcast on how to do that. But if you follow the last podcast, it's everything I know about Twitter X ads. If you listen to that, you can run these ads too. I teach this for free. Like, you can spend $4 and get 7 million impressions and 10,000 link clicks. That's insane. That's less than a cup of coffee in New York. I paid $5.50 for my decaf Americano today. That's like a 10 million impressions on Twitter X ads and I don't know, 12,000 link clicks or 13,000 link clicks. Insane. So you could do stuff like that. You should, like TikTok. That's another great one. TikTok is very good for driving traffic to whatever your main product is. Or another growth hack I love is bottom of funnel search engine optimization, where you target the things that people are searching for to convert. They're searching for how like a specific use case, or they're searching for the best product management newsletter. So, and you target these keywords, and then you do search engine optimization based on the long tail forms of these keywords that not many people are targeting, that you can hit easily because there's not that much competition for that. That's another growth hack that I talk about. That's something that I love. So you use the growth hacks, the hacks that don't take too much time, so you can get these sparks to your amazing content. And then you keep that content. You want to be so good that people share you. And the only way to do that is to be consistent over a long period of time. One last thing. I had a conversation with Avni. She's growing on TikTok. She's growing everywhere. And we talked about people who grow faster than we are, because as fast as we're growing, there are people who will start a TikTok and who will reach 100,000 subscribers or 100,000 followers in a month. Or I talk about this TikTok, Interesting Trut. You should totally look at it. Insane TikTok, inspiring TikTok. So much to learn from it. And I made the podcast about that. That one grew to 1 million followers in 2 months. But the thing is, brand equity comes from doing it time and time again for a long period of time. I think as I've hit the 8-month mark, I've started to get real brand equity where people, Avni said this to me, people just want to watch all of my TikToks because it's me. And it's the same with her. She has real diehard fans. People want to consume all of her media because it's her. And she like has huge fans. So crazy. I talked about, I could say this. I talked about how I was at her event a few nights ago, and then I met one of the like teenage millionaires who I watched in a video the night before. And this guy, super cool guy, he is a hardcore fan of Avni. And so she has these great fans. And you get those great fans by being consistent over a long period of time because it builds brand equity. People come to love you for being consistent and for doing the best that you can day after day after day. And that's what you got to do. And then you get those 1,000 true fans, and then you grow from there, and you reinvest into the product, and you reinvest into the product, and you reinvest into the product. And as you reinvest, you do bigger things, and then you grow faster. And so that's what it is. You make the best product that you can, learn the growth hacks that can get you those sparks, layer on those growth hacks so you keep growing fast, but also create the best product and you hit insane virality. That's what it's about. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to check out my newsletter is edwardsturm.com/newsletter. In fact, I just changed a call to action on my TikTok to this newsletter. That's edwardsturm.com/newsletter. I will talk to all of you again tomorrow. Bye now.